Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Tuesday, February 11th. Talked about the Mark Lamping extension earlier. Failed to mention that that was through 2030. So Mark Lamping locked in for the next 5 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars as team president. But right now it's time for Mock Draft Tuesday, right? Normally we do a Mock Draft Monday, but wasn't unable to get that out yesterday. Appreciate y'all's patience. So when we do mock drafts, generally speaking around here, we're talking about the entirety of the offseason for the most part. So we are going to run through some free agency roster talk before we get to the mock draft portion of the show. I just think it provides a much clearer picture of how things can play out throughout a season. Like, you don't go into the draft without free agency having informed the draft, right? That's how it works. So we're going to dive into it. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. So sitting at about $32 million in cap space right now. I know that Ingram and Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, these are the guys that folks really are like, okay, you can save a lot of money by moving on. Maybe you need to move on from one or both. I'm actually keeping both. I think that Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram are two talented guys. I think they're hardworking. I think they're leaders. I think Trevor Lawrence has a great rapport with both of them. I think Liam Cohen and the rest of this offensive coaching staff can really get a lot more out of Christian Kirk. And, you know, hopefully you need health to be on your side, right? But you talk about the other options as a veteran receiver, all of them have had injury issues. Every single one. Cooper Kupp on the trade block, injury issues. Deebo Samuel on the trade block, injury issues. Now, those guys at their peak, are they more talented players? Yes, that's fair, right? But Christian Kirk is a very, very good slot receiver. Bottom line, he is. And then you talk about, T. Higgins might hit free agency. Look, I'm all here for T. Higgins. If the Jaguars want to go out and do that, no problem at all. But he's going to cost you a lot more. He has injury history as well. I just think Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram are two leaders in this building. And you keep them around, and I think that they have a really good chance with better offensive coaching, a more modern scheme. You're using motion. You're getting guys moved around the formation. You're creating leverage advantages. I really think that Liam Cohen could do a lot with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. I really do. So I'm keeping them in this scenario. Still sitting at about $32 million in cap space. You're cutting Ronald Darby, Josh Reynolds, Devin Duvernay, Luke Fortner. That gets you to about $45 million in cap space. I mean, that's plenty of cap space to make some moves here that you want to make. So the two priority things that we're going to do, three really. Corner, guard, safety, right? That's not all we're going to do, but those are the things like you have to get it done, in my opinion. At corner, moving on from Ronald Darby, he was the veteran opposite Tyson Campbell, did not play well. You got to try to move in a better direction. Buster Brown's still there as a nice backup piece. You've got some other young guys as backups, DeAndre Prince, Jarian Jones in the slot. But we go sign a corner here, right? Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed, Paulson Adebo, Carlton Davis, whoever it is. Let's say that's, and I don't say whoever it is like it doesn't matter. It does matter. But we don't exactly know how these coaches defensively, Anthony Campanile and company, are going to want to deploy their corners. So get the one that you feels fits your culture and your scheme the best out of the top guys in my mind. Let's say, somewhere around $15 million per year, 40% of the average annual value for the year one cap hit. That's how the Jaguars generally write contracts. So it's about a $6 million cap hit, sitting at about $39 million. And you now have two starting corners, Tyson Campbell, one of these guys, obviously Jarian Jones in the slot. You're feeling pretty good about that. Okay. You also, again, safety is going to be critical. There's a lot of safeties that hit the market, and safety is one of those positions where you can kind of afford to pay guys because it's just not one of the highest value positions out there. You can go sign veterans every year, every couple of years, if you need to at safety. And obviously you want to find guys that can stick around. And so I personally think if you were able to land Justin Reed, that would be fantastic. But you've got Justin Reed, you've got Javon Holland, you've got Andre Cisco, Von Bell. There's a number of players set to hit free agency at the safety position. And so I say you go sign two of them, right? And signing two of them probably combined about $25 million per year. That's a $10 million cap hit. So you're still looking pretty, even though you went and signed two safeties. And look, you do have a lot of safeties. You do. There's no question about it. You've got Antonio Johnson, you've got Darnell Savage, you've got Andrew Wingard, you've got Daniel Thomas, you've got these guys you go out and sign. I don't think that there's a single safety on the roster right now that you feel great about starting. And so that's why we're going and getting more safeties. Now you could wait till the draft, but I'm trying to take care of most of our needs, if not all of our needs, before the draft. Okay. That's how I look at it. And you can go into the draft and really just build out the best roster for the future that you can. So I'd also sign a guard, as I mentioned. There's a number of guys out there that could be available. Trey Smith, Tevin Jenkins, Mekhi Becton. If it was up to me, I'd probably go for Jenkins. I just think he has the most balance out of the three. I think he's a very good run blocker, as Becton and Smith are, but I think he's got a little bit more athleticism and versatility as a pass protector. Say $18 million a year, that's a $7 million cap hit. You're still sitting good with the cap space there. I'd sign a third edge. I'm not against drafting one either, but I would sign a third edge, whether that's Azeez Ojulari, and you're not gonna draft one super early. Like you're not gonna say we have Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker, but we're gonna go draft an edge in the first or second round. I don't think that's gonna be the way it works. But Azeez Ojulari, Alari Joseph Asai, someone young but talented, probably about $8 million-ish per year, $3 million cap hit, still sitting in a really good spot there. And you have about just under $20 million in cap space after those signings, and you have a good future cap situation. None of those signings have to be, long term into the future. And then you get into your draft. And you're able to go into the draft not having any major glaring needs. You've addressed a lot of the big needs on your roster. You have future needs. You have different areas you can upgrade. And so I'm looking at this one, and free agency informs the draft. The draft also informs free agency. So I'm kind of predictively looking at this thing, and I'm saying I don't want to pay up for one of these receivers when I think in the first or second round I could get a really, really high quality starting receiver talent and get one of them on. I've always said this, or I've been telling you all this all off season. Receivers on a rookie deal are the second best value in the NFL outside of quarterback, right? On a rookie deal. Receivers just get paid. They just do. And so being able to find a receiver that you really value in the first couple of rounds, I think is critical. And then based on the way we did this, I think this is an insanely strong defensive line class. Incredible. I really do. And so I look at the first two picks, and we're probably looking at interior defensive line and receiver. That's where I'm at. And in this one, I took Mason Graham at 5 overall. I did that because I have him ranked higher on my board than Tedero McMillan or Luther Burden or any other receiver. And now I look, stacking is important. You look at your 5th pick, you look at 36 overall, and you say, okay, if I take a defensive line at 5 and then a wide receiver at 36 or wide receiver at 5, defensive lineman at 36, what do I like better? I really like both options. And so I'm going to introduce a name here that might not be super familiar with a bunch of people at 36. But first, let's talk about why Graham is the pick and why I think Graham is a blue chip prospect. He did it immediately when he got to Michigan. He immediately was a great football player for them. He's looked fantastic his entire career. He's explosive, really explosive athlete, really flexible, has advanced hands, his ability to defeat his offensive line opponent very quickly with hand usage, well-timed swipes, clubs, rips, and then, being able to accelerate past them and use his flexibility and bend at his size, 320 pounds, to make plays in the backfield at the line of scrimmage and around the line of scrimmage. I think he's incredible. I think he works hard. I think he's going to be a stud at the NFL level. So that's why we took him here. Again, if I'm just going based off my big board, I think predictively he's going to be the best available because I think Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are going to be gone. And, for me, Mason Graham is right after them. And then at 36, the name we're introducing here, who some of y'all might know him, some of you might not. Alec Iomanner out of Stanford. And this is probably on the high side of where he's going to get drafted, but not for a lack of talent. And he's Canadian, so that's something to keep in mind. Canadian football player, but played at Stanford. And Stanford has not had a very good passing offense, right? The last couple years. They just haven't. Alec Iomanner is 6'2" and 210 pounds. He's got really good length. What to me really separates him at this spot against a lot of the other candidates to be selected here, including Jaden Daniels, who I absolutely love. I think at 6'2", 210, Iomanner is going to be running in the 4.4s. Like, he can fly at his size and can make incredible catches, can go up and get the football at its highest point, can run routes at his size. You look at his career contested catch rate, right around 50%, just under. His drop rate is slightly high, 8.7%. It's actually really funny looking at his PFF contested catches and drops. His drop rate the last 2 years, and he's only played 2 seasons of college football. Both years it was 8.7%, 6 drops on 109 targets. Then you look at contested catches, 14 contested catches on 29 targets both years. Just really weird. He can make people miss in space with the ball in his hands. I think he's the type of receiver that his best football's in front of him. You get him with a good play caller, a good quarterback, a good passing game situation. I think he could be a steal in the second round. I do think he will go in the second round. But even if it's not him, I'd be great with a lot of the different guys that could be available. It's possible Matthew Golden could be available. It's possible Emeka Egbuka could be available. It's possible that Jaden Higgins. There's a lot of guys, right? For me, just introducing a different name to talk about, somebody who I would value in this spot, who I absolutely think is a top 50 pick, Alec Iomanner out of Stanford, who 1,000 yards in 2023 on 107 targets. So targets were slightly different year to year. 2023, 107 targets, 63 catches, 1,022 yards, 6 touchdowns. Last year, 2024, 109 targets, 63 catches, 831 yards, 6 touchdowns. Again, has the ability to make the spectacular catch, can run routes at a high level at his size, is really explosive at his size. You just don't find a lot of guys that are as well built as him that are as explosive as him. Can go up and get the ball. I think complementing what you have as a outside receiver with Brian Thomas Jr. and a guy you can really build around. And the cool thing about the draft, again, is with keeping Christian Kirk, with keeping Evan Ingram, you also have Gabe Davis. You also have, obviously, Brian Thomas Jr., your number one receiver. You've got a lot of guys that can go get the job done, especially Thomas, Kirk, Ingram. Iomanner doesn't have to come in and be that guy immediately. You can really kind of develop him. But if he shows he's ready, you could have an amazing 1-2 punch right off the bat. And I think he has the physical skill set to be that type of guy. So looking at the rest of this draft here, we ran this one over on NFL Mock Draft Database. So at 70, we're going Marcus Mbo, for the Jaguars, center prospect out of Purdue. He's played guard, he's played tackle, did a little bit of center work at the Senior Bowl. I think that's where he's got to play. I mean, he might be able to play guard too, but he, to me, just at tackle, way too inconsistent with his hands, with his spacing and timing, and his drops, and his pass sets. Stick him inside. Let him use his physical ability. Let him use his advanced hands. He loves the snatch trap. Let him use his athleticism. His physical skill set makes the most sense at center. And another spot where can he compete potentially with Mitch Morse? Yes. Does he need to win the job immediately? No. And so you're building for the future with this draft. Now, Mason Graham, he comes in, I think he's immediately your number one interior defensive lineman. And then you have Mason Smith, Eric Armstead, Jordan Jefferson, all these guys rotating, right? And you could feel pretty fired up about that. But after the first round, you're not necessarily having to draft guys that have to be this major contributor from day one. Marcus Mbo, if he shows that he can do it throughout the season for you in practice and you feel good about it, maybe eventually down the road during the 2025 season, he can take over. Because again, unbelievable athlete with great tools and advanced hands. Just needs to develop consistently. Elikayo Manor, unbelievable athlete with great tools who has shown a lot as a young, less experienced college prospect. So I would be a big fan of these top three picks. Then at 88, this is going to be one where it was hard for me to get this high on him just because, well, we'll talk about it. It's Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State. The reason it was hard for me to, value him in the third round for a while was just because he does not have long speed. He doesn't. There's no question about it. He doesn't have long speed. But what he does have is literally everything else you could ask a running back to have, honestly. Like 100%. He has incredible power and contact balance. He's 5'11", 215. And you might say, okay, so he's just a power back. That's not really the case. He has great vision and patience, and he's super explosive in a short area. He doesn't have that long speed, but 0 to 10 yards, and then you've got agility, you've got incredible jump cuts, you've got creativity with the ball in his hands, stiff arms, running through contact, running through tackles. He's unbelievable. And he's a great receiver out of the backfield. He's a good pass protector. To me, this is the type of guy that you really want on your football team. And the way I think about it with Liam Cohen specifically, not a one-to-one by any stretch of the imagination to the kid out of Oregon who had an unbelievable rookie year for Liam Cohen and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. But I think there's a lot of similarities in the agility, in the low center of gravity, the creativity as runners. I think this would be a great pick. And Travis Etienne, yes, he's still on the roster, but you're not going to probably re-sign him after 2025. Probably just not going to. And so then you're looking at Tank and Cam. And I think Cam could be your number one guy. I really do. And that running back out of Oregon, Bucky Irving, just was drawing a little blank on his name. He's not nearly as big as Cam. I'm not saying they're the same player, but can you use Cam in some of the same ways and succeed in some of the same ways with Bucky that you did with Bucky Irving? I really think you can. Because, and Bucky Irving, he ran slow. I think he ran, what did he run? I think he ran in the 4.6s. It was not impressive. And Cam's not going to run very fast either in the 40. But you get him on the football field, you see the quickness, explosiveness, lateral agility. Okay, so Bucky Irving, 4.55 at the combine, which was disappointing considering he came in at 5'9", 192 pounds, right? I think that's actually a little faster than what Cam's going to run. I think Cam's probably going to run in the 4.6s, but he's 5'11", 215. He's a bigger dude. And again, just the way they run, I can see using them in similar styles. I really can. So that's fun. You've added, obviously, big interior defensive linemen to kind of try to emulate the Eagles a little bit up front. If you can win with rushing 4, that's huge in the NFL. It absolutely is. And Mason Graham, Eric Armstead / Mason Smith, Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, one of those edges we talked about signing. I think you'd be cooking with gas there. And then helping Trevor Lawrence out, wide receiver, interior offensive line, running back. A lot of fun. At 106, cornerback Kobe Bryant out of Kansas. He has, good length, good overall height, great physicality. He's undersized, but he does not play undersized. He plays like he's a 200-pound corner against the run, in coverage, whatever it may be. Sign me up for Kobe Bryant. At 125, this is a tremendous tight end class. We got to go get one of these guys. Gunnar Helm out of Texas still on the board. I think that he is one of the most balanced tight ends in this class. He's going to be a good blocker for you. He's going to give it everything he's got in that regard. He is a good athlete, not a great athlete, a good athlete with really good receiving skills. He's a good route runner, solid hands, big catch radius. I just think Gunnar Helm's going to make a football team better. Ozzie Trapilo out of Boston College, the offensive tackle. So we're bringing him in to compete with Javon Foster. I think Javon Foster did not show a whole lot during his rookie year. Obviously wasn't on the field a lot, but throughout training camp and preseason, it looked like it was a little much for him. So let's bring in some competition and see maybe we can make sure that we feel really good about our tackle depth behind Anton Harrison and Walker Little. At 184, we went Malachi Moore, another safety, because eventually it would be nice to have a homegrown guy that you feel really good about. Maybe with new coaching, new defense, Antonio Johnson could be that guy, right? Maybe if you bring back Andre Sisco, he could be that guy. But Malachi Moore is a really underrated safety out of Alabama in my mind, who he played kind of the star role at Alabama, the same role that you saw from, I don't know why I'm drawing blanks on names right now, but the safety we loved that went to the Detroit Lions a couple years ago, who is now one of the best safeties in football. That's going to drive me crazy. He was top 10 pick prospect for me, so don't know why I'm drawing a blank. But same type of role for Malachi Moore. He's not the same level of prospect, which is why he's available on day 3. Brian Branch, excuse me, y'all. Not the same level of prospect, which is why he's available much later, but can fulfill some of the same duties, certainly, that Brian Branch does for Detroit and did for Alabama. And at this point, you're taking a swing on a guy who probably going to be able to compete on special teams, try to make the back of the roster, try to just improve the depth of the roster overall. And then at 196, we are going with interior defensive lineman Jamari Caldwell. So I know we've got a lot of guys on the interior now, but Jamari Caldwell, I just can't pass on him out of Oregon. He is about 6'2", 340 pounds. He's a definition of a dancing bear. One of those guys that has no business being as quick or nimble or as athletic as he is at his size. And I think he's going to be able to create push. He's going to be stout against the run, but he can also create some penetration with his quickness and athleticism, really shock some guards with how fast and explosive he can be off the ball. So that's a big time pickup there. And then at 223, we're going with another cornerback, defensive back. I think he can do a lot of different things for you. He's just the type of guy you want on your roster. It's Upton Stout out of Western Kentucky, who is undersized, right? But plays like an absolute dog. Whether he's an outside corner, nickel, safety, whatever it may be, he's going to make the back end of that room better. And part of the reason we went so heavily, in free agency and the draft on the secondary is because the Jaguars secondary has not been good enough. It needs to be coached better, but it needs to be more talented as well. It needs to have guys that have great football awareness, great desire out there on the football field. And I think you're doing that with how we're kind of addressing it throughout the offseason here with this free agency / mock draft. So that'll do it here. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member here on YouTube. Y'all have a good one.